I moved back home to Anchorage a few years ago and started working with a lot of the political advocacy groups here and clean energy advocacy groups and some of the political action committees and those folks. And one of the persistent things that kept coming up with all of the groups is everyone always trying to find more staff, and especially local staff in our smaller communities who are folks that maybe this isn't a totally full-time job for, but it's something you can do on the side in addition to your responsibilities and jump in and be able to help a candidate you're really excited about in your community. And it also helps expose, and doing that helps expose people to running for office and seeing that, oh, other normal people just like me can do this. Maybe I should think of it myself, which definitely has been part of my own process. So in Alaska, we already have a couple of campaign training programs. We have the AAA Labor Candidate School put on by the AFL-CIO, which is amazing. And then we have Alaska Women Ascend, which I went through a couple of years ago and went to again as a speaker this earlier this year. And these are great programs, and we see a little gap in offering these kinds of programs to even more people, people who aren't maybe union members or people who aren't women. And also just offering it, continuing to offer more and more programs at different times for different people who maybe couldn't participate in the other ones. And so we're really excited to be launching the Northern Campaign Academy with this call tonight, and then moving forward, building momentum to hold an in-person training next year where we have multiple statewide seats open, lots of really important state legislative elections happening all across the state, lots of really important local municipal races happening all across the state. And so really excited to talk with you all about opportunities to be involved, helping us get participants in the program, hoping to get you excited about participating yourself. Of course, we have to raise funds for this as well. So folks with that perspective, we welcome further conversation. And yeah, so tonight we'll go through the 3 different tracks and modules that we'll have at the Northern Campaign Academy. The first being the campaign manager, the person holding together all of the pieces of the campaign. Ira's going to walk us through that. And then the treasurer. So a vitally important role, people who make sure our APOC filings are done well and compliant and don't cause major headaches for the campaign teams. And field directors, and Christian and Paula will go through that piece, and then we'll have Kalli, Randall talk about being a field director. The person who makes sure we talk to all the voters we need to talk to throughout the campaign and get the votes to win. So, and then we'll close with Leah, our amazing program coordinator, who will let us know more details about the program, how the training will work, and how we will continue to support folks even after the training happens. So yeah, and then we'll move into questions. So excited to have you all in the call. Maybe we could share some quick intros in the chat just so we know who all is joining us. Name, pronouns if you want to share, where you're calling from would be amazing, just so we know who's joining us. And then I'll pass it to Ira to talk about being a campaign manager.
Ira, you should be able to share your screen now.
Great, thanks. Before I share my screen, I will just introduce myself. Hey, I'm Ira. I work at Ship Creek Group, and I'm here just to give you a little sense of what managing a campaign is like, and I will try to refrain from getting into the weeds too much. And I just want to say on the outset, one, I see there's a lot of experienced campaign managers in this virtual room already. So truly feel free to chime in the chat if you want to correct me, call me on my stuff. that will be welcome and well received. I also want to say that um, campaigns can feel intimidating, overwhelming, like a lot. There's a lot of different moving pieces. But truly, they are not rocket science, and you can learn them. And that is something I'm excited about with this campaign academy. My own background, like politics wasn't something I studied formally. I actually came to Alaska back in 2014, taking people out on long mountaineering and backpacking trips. And I was just off the grid for 5 weeks, the fall of 2016, coinciding with that presidential election, came back into the world and decided I wanted to get more involved. And that, through a somewhat winding path, took me to managing campaigns in Alaska, where I've worked on everything from local campaigns or state legislative campaigns from the North Slope to Southeast Alaska. Um, and not forgetting Fairbanks, I see some Fairbanks, some quality time in Fairbanks, and statewide campaigns. So, um, let's see. What am I actually talking about, though? Um, we'll run through this quickly. Just want to talk about what is the role of a campaign manager, talking about specifically the relationship between a manager and a candidate, general sense of how a campaign works, and then also want to be sort of upfront about what is hard about it, or what are challenges, and what some of the exciting opportunities are in this role. So, what does a campaign manager do? The truth is quite a lot of things. This, I wouldn't even say, is an exclusive list. From developing strategy, operations, figuring out the team, oversight of the key components of the campaign, whether that's raising money or the communications. So, simplifying that a little bit, a campaign manager is responsible for thinking through what a campaign looks like and putting that into a plan, and then doing the plan. And I know that sounds very simple, but I sometimes think of campaigns as you come up with a plan, and then the whole world conspires to have you not execute that plan. Many people will give you their own thoughts about what the campaign should be. There will be things that come up that you just haven't anticipated. And a big part of your role, as basic as it sounds, is just like, we are doing a plan. Doesn't mean you don't adapt, but it is just like sort of driving the ship forward. There's also a really important relationship piece here. The candidate is doing the hard thing. Like, campaigns are hard, but the candidate is the one who is really doing the hard thing. It is personal for them. It is about them. It is all consuming. And you are the person who is there to support them. And that's an important responsibility and can look like a lot of different things depending on what that candidate needs. Then there's just like, make sure the day-to-day happens. And there's like hopefully things that you can delegate to other people, the candidate, the volunteers, but you're still responsible for making sure all the key things happen at the end of the day. So, like, if you're wondering, should this be me? Or what are things that I should try to cultivate if I'm really excited about this? I think some, but not all, of the key traits here are an ability to prioritize. There's always going to be more to do than you have time for. Can you figure out what is most important? Um, can you keep things organized? Not rocket science, but there's just like a lot of little tasks that happen. Can you develop systems to keep track of those things and communicate them with the people that need communicating? Level-headedness. Look, we're not out here like doing emergency surgery on people, but there is this thing in the political world where people will make it feel like the most important thing in the world, whether it is or not. That is just a feeling that is part of the job. And being able to sort of take that, see through it, and proceed forward, I think is a helpful skill to have. You'll deal with all sorts of people in this job, whether it's the candidate, supporters, volunteers, donors. Being able to take different type of people and interact with them is helpful. And just part of the campaign is raising money, whether you are doing that directly or not. I think it is something that is helpful to embrace in this role. There's a more graphic summary of some of those things. Um, I think I have these slides here because I actually think this is a very cool, important part of the role. You get to work really closely with someone who is doing a hard thing. And that's a cool thing. For me, that is something I find motivating. I feel accountable to candidates that I am working with. And particularly because they're doing a hard thing. And when that goes well, it means you two establish a trusting relationship. If you were both to be asked, what are the goals? Like, how are we going to win this thing? You would say a similar thing. You can develop a shared sense of what the campaign is and the strategy, and you have fun. I think that's important. I think campaigns can be fun, and that can be something you cultivate with the people that you work with. I think as much as I'm throwing a bunch of other stuff out there, the reality is we all have different strengths and weaknesses. Each candidate brings different strengths and weaknesses to the job. And part of this too is being honest with yourself, being honest with the candidate about what are the things you bring to the table, what are the things they bring to the table, and like working around that, putting in the pieces to adjust for people's weaknesses and strengths. You don't have to have everything. In practice, what will this look like? I mean, this is, I think, not how a lot of people would draw a campaign, but as someone who's thinking about doing this from cycle to cycle, you start by thinking through the campaign, developing that plan, then you go and execute it. As you're executing it, there will be times and processes to step back, think about how things are going, adjust to circumstances, usually a big push at the end to get out the vote. And hopefully there's some process after the campaign where you can say, hey, I won or lost. How did things go? What can we do better? Um, so what are some of the things that can be hard about this? Um, Many things. I mean, I, these are both cool things and hard things. Cool thing, a campaign, you're sort of inherently building something. You're making an organization. And that usually starts with a lack of definition. And if you don't help define those things, there's like confused roles, who's doing what, boundary, like that can create stress. Um, if you just like add on a layer of stress to everything, that just adds a tinge to how things go. Um, but I think, I'm not going to actually read through all of these things, but I think something I think about and I think I've gotten better at as I've learned more is there really is, for someone who is in the candidate position, especially a new candidate, they might not necessarily know what's important or not, and it still feels very important. So being able to, a challenge can be to like absorb all of the stress that you're getting from all different angles, especially if you don't really know what's important or not. And that it can be hard to draw boundaries around that in a campaign. So this is not an insolvable problem. Again, I think the more I've learned, the more I've been able to deal with the stress, draw boundaries, but this feels real. I'm happy to talk about that more with people who are interested in becoming campaign managers. That being said, um, something I really love about campaigns is there's like a very clear thing you're trying to do. You're like trying to win. And at the end of the day, someone will win and someone will lose. And you're not really spending a lot of time being like, what does this all mean? And as someone who likes to just like focus on getting things done, I find that really helpful. And these are all things that are like parts of successful campaigns. But I think a big picture summary that I would take from all of this is as a campaign manager, you get to be the one to see the clear end goal, help work backwards from that, create all of these different components, and go and do something with a candidate and with a team. And I'll end by just saying, you know, there's lots of ways to have impact. I think people in politics can have a disproportionate view of how impactful this is relative to other things. I say this as a humble practitioner of politics myself. I do think it's important, but um, in Alaska, votes are literally won by 22, 7, 11, even one vote. These are real state legislative races. And in this role, you get to feel like, wow, I have really actually moved the needle on something. I've put this person in office, a deciding vote for education reform or education funding. And personally, I find that level of like connecting my actions to real outcomes very motivating and a cool part of this position. And that is all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And there'll be room for questions at the end. We're just now trying to give you kind of an overview for those people who might be interested in being participants of what these tracks might look like, the general idea of what you will be learning. And then I'll get into more of the details of how we are going to kind of try to structure that. I'm going to pass it over to Paula and Christian to talk about the treasurer track.
Paula, you're muted.
Sorry, I would just do the whole thing and nobody would hear me. Thanks. I'm Paula DeLaiarro. I'm the Senior Compliance Director at Ship Creek Group, and my colleague Christian Killgore is here with me this evening, and we're going to share some information with you about being a campaign treasurer. The treasurer really is the heart of the campaign. As with any organization, a campaign treasurer performs four main functions. One is to receive money, two is to spend money, three is to record transactions, and four is to create and file reports. But campaign treasurers must also be knowledgeable about the statutes and the regulations that govern campaign finance disclosure in Alaska. We basically keep the wheels on the campaign by ensuring that the campaign is always in compliance. And lastly, we apprise the team of the financial situation at any given point in time, and we give them advice on what they can and, more importantly, what they can't do to be legally compliant. So it's a big job, it's a challenging job, and yes, it can be a stressful job, but it's also incredibly rewarding and, dare I say, fun. I got my start in 2014. At that point in the game, I had raised four children. I was not looking for work, but a dear friend of mine was recruited to run for the state house. She, in turn, recruited me to be her treasurer. Neither of us had ever been involved politically, and I had never even looked at an APOC report. We hired a young woman who also had no political experience, but she had recently completed a graduate degree in a very politically relevant field, namely museum studies. So on paper, the three of us had no business running a campaign. But in Alaska, it's a land of opportunity. And you don't have to have an extensive resume. You don't have to have a flashy background to get your toes in the water and undertake some of these roles. So for me personally, I was hooked pretty much from the start. I knew right from the beginning that this was something that wasn't going to be a one-off for me. So since then, I've been fortunate to be treasurer for over 80 campaigns, everything from assembly and school board all the way up to governor. And I have filed over 1,000 APOC reports and forms. I just feel incredibly blessed to be able to do work that I really enjoy and that makes a difference. Christian came to this work by a very different avenue, so I'll let him chat with you about his experience.
Yeah, my name's Christian Killgore. I'm the Deputy Compliance Director over at Ship Creek Group. Before I got involved in politics, I worked in the culinary industry as a line cook. That's what I did throughout my 20s. For personal reasons, I needed to transition to something where I could work from home. So I started phone canvassing for the mobilization center, which is how I kind of got involved in politics. And then Paula was just looking for someone who she could train to do this work and help her out. So I highlight my background to kind of make the point that being a treasurer is a skill that you can learn. And it's something that we are really excited to teach and get a new group of people together who can do this work. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about like what kind of person should be a treasurer. One of the most exciting things about like the role of a treasurer, in my opinion, is that it can be anyone. You don't need to be a politico. You don't need to be a political strategist. You don't really have to worry about all of the social aspects of a campaign because being a treasurer is pretty technical. It helps if you're detail oriented, if you're good with numbers, if you're the kind of person who's not going to miss a deadline. One of the important things about being a treasurer is being able to take the stress of a campaign's finances off of the plate of your candidate so that they can focus on just being the best candidate that they can be. And so you need to be someone who can work somewhat independently, but with that comes a lot of flexibility. I have a 6-month-old daughter who takes up a lot of my time. And one of the things that's sort of great about my job is even though I'm currently a treasurer for 7 different campaigns, I can do that work when it makes sense for me. I can set my own hours to a degree. I can just as long as I make sure that the work gets done, that's what is important. And when it comes to being a treasurer, there is a finite amount of work. You know, once you have your accounts reconciled and you have your reports ready to file, it's something where you can sort of be done with it. And I think that's going to be something that is attractive to a certain kind of person. Um, the other thing that I wanted to sort of highlight is just the opportunities in the state right now. I mean, there are not a lot of people who do this work. Um, one of the reasons we're trying to put this whole thing together is so that there are a larger pool of people to pull from when people are trying to get a campaign up and going and get staff together. I'm going to kick it back to Paula to talk a little bit about the opportunities and sort of her history with being a treasurer, both working for Ship Creek Group, but also like as her own business. Paula?
Thanks, Christian. Well, once you have this skill set, the opportunities abound. There is always a shortage of competent treasurers. In fact, Christian and I have received many more requests than we can possibly take on to be treasurers. So the work is there. You just need to develop the skill set. Once you have that skill set, you can be treasurer for a candidate for any type of campaign within the state of Alaska, everything from assembly and school board all the way up through a governor's race. The only difference is mainly in the volume of work that is required, but the reporting requirements remain essentially the same. Once you have basically mastered candidate campaigns, there is the opportunity for substantial growth by becoming a treasurer for a group, something like an independent expenditure group, a PAC, or even a ballot measure. Now, the reporting requirements for those do involve more extensive training, and they are different from a candidate group for candidate reporting. But, it's definitely a way to expand your repertoire and keep yourself interested. In terms of your participation in a campaign, you can work as a volunteer or you can get paid, which is nice. You can be an independent contractor and own your own business, which I have done, as well as being a volunteer, or you can work for a business that provides compliance services, such as Ship Creek Group, where Christian and I work. You can work part-time or you can work full-time. So lots and lots of options and great flexibility and lots of opportunities once you have the skill set. And I think I'll close with just a personal reflection, and that is that when I first started, there really was very limited support and limited training available for someone who wanted to become a treasurer. Basically, APOC provided a one-time 2-hour training that focused primarily on just an overview of the statutes and the regulations, but there was no way that they showed you how to put that into practice, how to translate those regulations and statutes into an actual report. So I felt very much on my own, and I have to be honest, I was quite frankly terrified. So if I were in somebody's shoes, maybe watching this, who's thinking about becoming a treasurer, I would definitely avail myself of the Northern Campaign Academy and the opportunity to learn from people who actually do this for a living. So the door's wide open. Come on in. We'd love to see you at the January training and hopefully maybe even get you started on a new career. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Christian. We are going to move forward to Kalli to talk about the role of field director. And then keep in mind, we will have an opportunity for questions and feedback.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kalli Randall, and I'm the project director for the Mobilization Center. Thank you, Christian, for the shout out a little bit earlier. I'm super honored to follow those last two presentations. I hope to live up to the same. I'm here today to talk a little bit about what it means to be a field director and why that's important to a campaign success, both working directly for a campaign, but also what that means when you're looking at the statewide races and federal races that you may not have an opportunity to work in the campaign office itself, but you can still have a great effect on the ground in the state. So I'll talk a little bit about who I am, my background, how I got involved in this work, and then I'll, like I said, dive in a little bit more to the intricacies of field directing. So, as I said, my name is Kalli Randall. I work for the Mobilization Center. I've been working for this organization since early 2024. Before that, I worked for Progress Alaska as well, doing some administration and operation role for them. And I had the great opportunity to work in the more field director and canvas director role in the 2024 August and like fall election. And then I've been doing that role all of 2025. So much like other people have mentioned, my background actually didn't start in politics. I was a nerdy theater kid that had a passion for public outreach. And I was pursuing my dreams of being a world-renowned theater director. It has not happened yet, but it will happen, I promise. But after COVID in 2020, I decided to move back home. I'd been living in Chicago for a few years and had been, like all theater people, been working in the service industry as a bartender. And after COVID happened, I realized I just needed a shift. I wanted work that gave me a little bit more to do and more like end result and pride in my job. Not anything against service industry people. I just at the time I needed to shift to be a little bit more in a structured 9 to 5 job. And I was looking around and talking to people, and for me, I had been raised by parents who instilled in me that voting was a right and a privilege, and that you should remain to be educated, know who you're voting for, and know the political landscape that you're living in so you can be the best contributor to your community. And being raised by that, I thought that just meant showing up at the poll. And I didn't really know how to get into the system to be a little bit more effective. But I had been doing some coaching on the side theater wise, and I thought maybe I could do a little bit of speaker coaching as well. Maybe I could help people address public in public spaces and give them that confidence so that their message that they develop can be much more impactful when it comes to how they receive the message as an audience member. So I had the opportunity, like I said, to get connected with Progress Alaska, and I just had been talking to Ryan and said, "This is something I'm interested in. I would love to help. Please put me in any role you can." And I think, like a lot of us, the opportunity was presented to me. A small door was opened, and it allowed me to see the background of the political system and start to see where my skills actually fit into other roles that I could see necessary in the broad world of the political spectrum. So through my work with Progress Alaska, I started working for the Mobilization Center as their Canvas director because for me, I had the theater background and I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to coach people, how to talk to people. And so it just seemed like the best fit for me to step into that role. That being said, there was a lot I had to learn and why I think it's important and why I'm so honored here today to be able to speak on what field directing is and how you can step up and become the best one possible. So like Ira kind of covered already, the campaign manager is someone that is going to create and accomplish that overarching goal and plan of the campaign. And what a field director gets to do is be an army in that plan and help facilitate the on the ground, person to person conversations that are necessary to win campaigns. So sorry, adjusting my notes. So when I was like thinking about what I wanted to share about being a good field director and what it meant to be that army on the ground, it was starting to think about what it looks like when you're looking at a small campaign, when you're looking at maybe assembly races or local state city races, and then you go to the broad state directing races as well, and then you're looking at the federal races too. And in the Alaska landscape, I feel that field directing and canvas directing work hand in hand. They both have different traits that are beneficial, and then one kind of works to build the other. So I'm going to talk a little bit about canvas directing first and why that builds into field directing. So as a canvas director, you're working more on the day-to-day operations, sending people out to doors, working with canvassers directly that are on the ground, creating plans of today we hit 150 doors with one person. You were great. What were the traits that worked, didn't work, and how we can share that with the team and then adjust our goals to meet the goals of the campaign on a broad spectrum. This canvasser, like I said, runs daily canvassing operations. It manages canvassers like trainings, turf, and the data flow. It troubleshoots in real time and ensures voter conversations match what the campaign message is, and it hits those daily and weekly metric targets. And how that works with the field director is that the field director is kind of that middleman between the full campaign plan and the canvas director on the ground. So the field director is looking at what are the goals of the campaign, how many doors do we want to talk to, how many voters do we directly want to contact, and then what is the best avenue in which to contact those voters. So there's many ways that you can do that. Like I said before, you can knock on doors, talking to people face to face. You can make phone calls with phone banking, either with paid canvassers or with volunteer banks. And you can also work at events. Events are a great way to get captured audience attention. So the field director, their focus is going to be overseeing all the field operations across multiple teams and regions. That's going to play directly into when we're talking about like those statewide races that are having to talk to audiences all around the state in different areas of this state. Sorry, I'm saying state so many times. And each community is different. Each tactic is going to be different. And the field director has to have kind of an intrinsic knowledge of what is going to be the best contact method for all of those communities. The field director is also going to ensure that they're coordinating data with the Canvas director. They're coordinating the comms, the political, digital, and leadership teams. They're designing and overseeing the campaign's entire field strategy. They're translating high-level goals into daily actionable plans, builds community infrastructure, and balances long-term planning with those on-ground realities. As I like to say, field directors don't just oversee the outreach, they are the engineers behind it. They're the ones who are breaking down who we're going to talk to, how often we're going to contact them, which methods are going to be the most effective, what is that direct message, and how we can adapt that message on a day-to-day basis based on the feedback from Canvas directors or directly from the canvassers themselves on the ground. And then how we can best manage our time and put our manpower to those efforts. Without a plan from the field director, the campaign's communications with voters would be quite scattered, possibly inefficient or off target. Campaigns spend so much time and money on crafting their message and what the platform they want to put out for that campaign and that candidate. But oftentimes, if that message is not accessible to a voter or they feel that they don't have an intrinsic knowledge of it, it can often fall to silent ears. So, like I said before, like field directors and campaign directors often work together to orchestrate and optimize that outreach program. Um, and they have to exercise traits of adaptability. Campaigns are changing from a day-to-day basis based on what's happening in the news cycle, what is the energy and the messaging coming from the community, and how they can best attack that communication. And then the other side that's probably, in my opinion, like one of the biggest traits of a field director that makes a strong field director is someone that can best motivate and manage their team. Uh, Field directors are often dealing with canvassers who are doing public facing work, and voters can be some of the most intense and sometimes cruel people. They're very passionate what they do, but sometimes, people don't like to be contacted at the doors or called on the phone. And so a field director is taking on those canvassers that are having to go through that day-to-day energy and communications and able to still rally the team, make sure that the message of the campaign is driven home and that everyone knows that they're working towards the same goal and creating a very strong community team energy. Um, they're also in charge of strategic thinking. I've definitely covered this already a little bit, which is that field directing is both data driven and people driven, and they're able to turn that data plan from the campaign into actionable on the ground plans and into wins. The field director is crucial in crisis management. It's kind of like stage managing or managing a restaurant. There's a lot of chaos happening, but if you can be kind of the calm presence to receive communications and then make actual plans forward, you can often be the reason that team is successful or not successful on the ground. The last thing is that the communication and presence is so crucial to a field manager. They need to be able to give clear direction, consistent messaging, and the ability to maintain confidence under pressure. As a not a campaign director, sorry, as a field director, there's a lot of struggles. You're in a fast-paced and ever-changing environment. You're dealing, like I said, with those public-facing issues, and you're dealing with people management on a day-to-day basis that can be very tiring. But what that allows you to do is to accomplish the goals that lead to a campaign winning their efforts in the state. The field directors are crucial to a campaign because they are the engine of the voter contact. They connect, like I said, strategy to reality. They develop the organizers and leaders of a community. Oftentimes, people start as canvassers. They just want to get involved, like I did, and they want an actionable item, and then you can provide them with that entrance, that door that opened for me, like I had. You can say, if you're passionate, come knock a door with me, and then they find that they have a niche skill for the work they're doing. They're very passionate about it, and then you can help build them up and connect them to other organizations or other roles that might help them be beneficial to campaigns in the future. um, Without a strong field directions, I truly believe that campaigns cannot win. Voter contact is what moves the numbers, and the field director ensures conversations are happening, that data is accurate, and that the region is aligned with the full plan. So I feel like that is why it's a crucial element of the Northern Campaign Academy, and that it is one of the tracks, because it is such an effective tool in how we create change in the state that we want to see. I really appreciate you guys listening to me. If you have any questions, I look forward to being able to answer them in our question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Kalli. All right, so we have all heard a lot about the different tracks. Are focusing there to provide support. And as you've heard from each of our speakers, each of those roles has a lot going on. Our intention is to have a hands-on 3-day training in early 2026 where we can actually dive into each of those tracks and not only talk about what the things are and what the overarching goals are, but actually how to do it. We're talking about like scan down, click the button here. This is where you put that information in. That kind of information so that people are not just learning about what the role is generally, but they actually are leaving the training with the tools that they need to be able to do the job. This is something that we want to make sure that we are preparing people for a very large election year. There's going to be elections up and down the ballot, and we need people who are trained and ready for all of those roles to be able to support good candidates. And that's what this is. This is about candidate support. And mind you, not all candidates, smaller candidates especially, can get a full team, afford a full team, and that's understandable. This is also a really great training for people, smaller candidates who might want to learn how to do these pieces of their own campaign if they can't actually bring other people in. Um, we are trying to make it as accessible as possible. We are going broad across the state. Dream City, people always laugh at me because I say Dream City. Dream City, we have people from all over, and there's tons of people, and we have to fly them in, and we feed them, and we house them, and we do, right? I would love that to happen, but perhaps not real, right? We are trying to put it on a sliding scale to make it as accessible possible. We are offering sponsorship opportunities for organizations and people if they want to help bring in specific people to the training. And then hopefully with our funding, we will be able to offer some scholarships to people to make sure anyone, a single mom in Bethel can come, right? Anyone can come. And we will make sure we are there for them and can support them. Our training is not just a 3-day thing. This campaign academy is actually a larger, long-term project. We would like to start with the 3-day training, but from that training, we want to create cohorts. So these people who are in these tracks are now a cohort of themselves, and they can provide peer support. They can also reach out to the campaign academy and ask when they need more facilitated support. So say, for instance, there's an issue in APOC that keeps coming up for people. We can call maybe Paula and have set up a facilitated meeting and training for those people to help them through these pieces, right? We don't want to just leave people. We want to keep building the momentum. We want the skills to expand. And so that means that people from all the other trainings can also benefit from this as well, right? You don't learn everything in 3 days. You have to keep working on it. And we're here to support that long-term growth. We also provide modules where people can access the trainings. So we will have a library, ideally, of modules that have been developed so people can go in and watch it again if they need to, relearn it. I know myself, it takes me a few times to learn something. So that is the general plan, long-term goal for building out momentum. The application is open. We opened it today. We encourage everyone in this meeting who feels like this is a space where they would like to learn new skills to get more engaged in the elections that are coming up in 2026. Please apply. If you know someone in your community where you're like, man, they would be really great for, getting some more APOC training, maybe we can help them. Send them their way. We want to build this, and it is open. So please share it around. That's how you can help us. Step one is please share with your community far and wide. Step two, connect and collaborate with us. If there's something that you feel you are an expert in, we are talking to people to facilitate the modules that are in the lower 48, that are experts in their field. We're talking to people in Alaska who are experts in the field. We are bringing together a bunch of people to facilitate. But if you feel you have something that is additive to this, or if you have questions, or if you want to, have specific materials to talk to your community, please reach out to us. That is our email. We are here. We're building this together. This is it. And full transparency, we need support. So in order for us to build the dream, we do need to have investors early, and we're hoping that people can encourage their communities to give what they can. We have a link here. You can QR code it to give donations, but if you also have larger donors that you are talking to, or you might be one, we are happy to talk more about this program. Um, Now I shall open it to questions. How can we help? What do you guys need?
Well, I just want to say, Leah, and everybody else that's helping to pull this together, this is super cool. It's something we've been missing in Alaska for a really long time. And yeah, kudos for getting everything so organized and polished and prepped. It feels like great momentum here, and I hope that we can fill out the ranks with 100 or 300 or 500 attendees.
That's a dream.
Dream City.
Hey, Leah, it's Michelle. I just wanted to follow up what Paula had said earlier, how terrified she was taking on the responsibilities with the APOC reporting. And I think a lot of even our election workers feel that way in remote areas because they don't feel well prepped enough, they're not trained enough, they haven't retained the information they needed to. And so it's important to point out that even though a lot of us are experienced people in this room, we all still get a little bit humbled by the process, but we realize, unless you've got a really vicious attorney general, none of us are going to get in trouble. APOC will, point out mistakes. You will have abilities to correct mistakes. So on the one hand, we want to make everyone aware that considers running for office that it is not an easy thing to do. It involves a whole ecosystem and bravery. But as long as we know that heading into it and we still want to serve, I think that's a testament to you wanting to be a candidate or work in a campaign, and that you will have a community that will be supportive when you need it.
Thank you for making that point, Michelle. I wanted to just say that I was indeed terrified. And at the beginning, I actually thought that if I made a mistake, that I could go to jail. So fear is a tremendous motivator, and you quickly learn how to do the things that you need to do to get the information that you need. So anybody who's thinking about it but feeling a little bit fearful, we're here for you. We'll help you with the process.
And anyone who's feeling fearful who might be watching this later, no one has gone to jail.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, hi. Sorry my video's not on. I just got back from vacation and I'm already in my pajamas, so so I thought I'd keep that off. Anyway, my name is Marcy. So yeah, I want to so I've never been involved in politics before other than being a somewhat of a political junkie and a, constant or a high or a I vote all the time, whatever that's called. But I've been a criminal defense attorney for like almost 30 years, and I'm really good at strategy. I'm really good at convincing people how to think how I want them to think and undermining the other side. And I've been frustrated for a while now on like just the I feel like I have a lot to contribute for progressive candidates in Alaska on how to better sell their messages and how to portray the shortcomings of the other side. And so I really like this election cycle. I just decided I couldn't sit out anymore. So I want to bring these skills, and I'm also a very persuasive writer. I want to bring these skills to the next elections and 2026. Is this the right forum for that, or?
Yeah, the training academy will also have like narrative building modules as well. This is all kind of woven into each other. So if this is something that you want to develop those skills in further, it sounds like you have the, inspiration behind it and some of the skill sets already innately. Yeah, this is something where we can kind of hone it so you can be really helpful to candidates.
Yeah, I am very good at strategy. I am very good at messaging. I convince people to, acquit in criminal trials. So, like that's my skill set, and I want to bring it to bear on these next election cycles. So I'm just looking for how I can help.
Yeah, I would say sign up for the training academy.
Okay, because I mean I'm not an organizer, I'm not a finance person, but as far as strategy goes, I am very good at that.
Yeah, you're in the right spot.
Okay, great.
I had a
Then I
question. Oh, sorry. Did you have
oh
more?
no, I was just gonna say that I will sign up.
Um, First of all, thanks. They're awesome presentations. I'm feeling very jazzed about the Academy right now. Went and pulled up the application and I'm working on it already. I'm wondering, you didn't mention a timeline, like a specific month. I know you said early 2026. But for those of us who have energy around it right now, do you have any suggested materials to review that might help prepare for the Academy?
That is a great question. I do have access to lots of tools that some of our partners have created. If you want to email us directly, I can send you down some paths. We're still developing out all the facilitation that's going to happen. So the training, the in-person training that will be much more hands-on, is going to happen once we get all of our facilitators and people on the same page and timeline. But early 2026 is where we're at right now.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hi, I'm Pete. Up in the Matsu here, we often, pretty much all the time, have a lot of unopposed campaigns. And the question comes to my mind, you're developing these tracks for campaign manager and treasurer and field director. How is there a process where you get those people that have developed those skills together with new candidates?
That is a great
There's
question, and thank
there's a
you.
ton of people probably lying out in the weeds, and I could be one of them. I don't know. We'll see. But there's a ton of people out there that are pissed off enough right now that they might just do it, but they don't know where to start. So they need this kind of expertise just to get off the ground.
Yes, thank you. And that reminds me something I left out. It's it's a big dream, so sometimes I leave things out. But for the end of the 3 days, part of our modules is we want to teach people how to actually connect and get the jobs. We also want to have a gathering of people so that campaigns, active campaigns, people thinking about campaigning can meet the people that have gone through the training. And we want to be a basically like a job board. Like we've got the list of people who've gone to the training. We'll connect you to the campaigns. That's, yes, speed dating for candidates, indeed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Leah, Bob Aldrup here. Is there an opportunity for somebody who wants to enter this to shadow some people that are already doing their jobs in these divisions that you just articulated? Can they sort of learn by observing?
Well, we haven't really developed out like an internship kind of situation, but the idea is that people who are doing those jobs and have experience doing those jobs are the ones who are teaching the people to do the jobs.
There you go.
But it's a great idea. Funding, God willing.
Yeah, and the going back a little bit to Dr. Bauer's question, one thing I want to explicitly mention is the creation of a list of trained staff that would come out of this, so that if candidates are filing, they reach out and we say, hey, here's everybody who went through the program. And so that candidates can reach out to trained folks themselves and have that ability. And on the application and through the program, you'd agree to share your information ideally, but that's a system and process I've seen that works. And then also other firms and stuff can have access to the trained staff as well. Groups like Ship Creek Group and Fire Lake and all of that can have more places to pull from as they recruit staff.
Hi, this is Marcy again. Just to follow up on that, sorry if you've already kind of answered this, but will you guys provide like a list of who we can contact if there's certain campaigns that we want to work on?
Yeah, the idea is being that we will be that kind of connecting force for
Okay,
you. Yeah.
Because I have no idea right now, but
Right. Right. And that
I
is
have
that
goals.
is one of the challenges, right? A lot of times people can learn these skills and then they don't know how to actually go and get the job. We want to make sure that people, this is also about building skill sets and jobs and opportunities for people as well.
Okay,
Jay,
great.
oh, Jay, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to do that a little bit more organizedly. So hopefully the raising hand helped. If people are interested in multiple of the cohorts, so like in my case, the campaign manager and the treasurer, do you have to pick when you start, or is there opportunity to do both?
So there's
or
a lot
all?
of overlap and we're still building out the modules. One of the things with the application that we're trying to keep in mind, which is why we have so many questions in there, is like, what is it that people are actually interested in, right? So if we see an elevation of a lot of people who are both interested in that two tracks together, right? That's something we can keep in mind as we build out the facilitation of these things.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? We're very excited that you all came to this, and we'll be sharing out the recording with people as well. We'll make sure to send it to everyone if you want to share it out. Please, again, share the application, share what we're doing. Please reach out to us. We are building this together. This is a collective work so that we can build campaign strength in Alaska. So Alaskans can speak to Alaskans so we can win. It's about winning.